here. As we get started today, let's take a minute and greet those around you.
Thank you. Today, February the 1st, is the beginning of Black History Month, so I thought it would be appropriate if we have a prayer from the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. Oh God, we thank you for the fact that you have inspired men and women in all nations and in all cultures. We call you different names. Some call you Allah, some call you Elohim, some call you Jehovah, some call you Brahma, some call you unmoved mover. But we know that these are all names for one and the same God. Grant that we follow you and become so committed to your way and your kingdom that we'll be able to establish in our lives and in this world a brother and sisterhood. That we will be able to establish here a kingdom of understanding where men and women will live together as brothers and sisters and respect the dignity and worth of every human being. Amen. Amen. And now, Lord, please bless this food to our use and us to thy service. In the Lord's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Michael. You may be seated. I'll call forward Libby Gobert. Libby has the month of February. She's welcoming our visiting Rotarians and guests. And you probably all know this already, but Libby's a board member and tremendous supporter of me and our club, and she does a great job. And Libby, I thank you for all your work you're doing on behalf of the club.
Thank you. Thank you, President Mark. It's an honor to serve this club as a board member, and it's so thrilled to be a greeter. I love seeing everybody as they come in. Now we want to recognize our visiting Rotarians. Carol Gibbons with the Main Street Rotary Club. Welcome, Carol. David Boucher, I do believe, from the Columbia Capitol Club. Welcome, David. Abby Nice from Columbia Capitol Club. Welcome, Abby. Please come back and join us anytime. Now I would like, if you have a visitor with you, if you would please stand, and if we could get somebody to take the mic around.
I'm Carrie Powers, and I have Alana Jordan with me today. She is a co-owner of Big Eyed Bird Creative Services, and I also have Charlie Nutt with me again today. He is the owner and publisher of Free Times.
I'm Jack Sloan, and today I have as my guest Leah Fisher, who's with Mars. She's district manager for Mars Pet Products.
Well, I'm Kay Shaw with the South Carolina Department of Commerce, and my guest today is Stephen Hughes. Stephen is a chief financial mentor with a company called No Money, and that would be KNOW Money. Please welcome Stevie.
I'm Hal Stevenson with Grace Outdoor. I have with my guest today Blake Buchanan, who is also with Fireflies. He is Director of Corporate Partnerships. So all of you guys that want to get your own box and everything, come see Blake. There you go.
My name is Trevor Bowers, and today I have with me Wes Dasher, who's my colleague at South Risk Management, and handles property and casualty insurance for us.
Is that all of our guests for today? Once again, welcome everyone. Please come back and visit with us again soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Libby. All right, for health and happiness, this week's report will be brought by Matt Kinnell.
Hello and welcome everybody on this gorgeous sunny day. Isn't it a great time to be in South Carolina? We'll take this. I think the last time I had health and happiness, it was right after the flood and the skies were pretty gray and there was standing water everywhere, and we really should be grateful for all the beauty that we have here today and enjoying this great first day of February. I did want to mention some flood recovery stories today that I think are really wonderful. One is Jason Snyder of our club. I think was in a recent news story. I talked to him when he came in, and he has a new house now coming under construction. Very, very happy about that. Some more good news. The Columbia Classic Ballet, which was flooded out as well, just got their permit to rebuild, so congratulations. Also, not flood related, but actually a twofer from President Beth Dindor from Columbia College. She asked me to let the club know that 96% of their 2015 graduates have jobs and are to the good work that Columbia College does for so many. And also, Reese told me today that in addition, Beth allowed the Metropolitan Opera from New York to hold its auditions at Columbia College. So that's very exciting, and it just shows the outreach that that college has for the community. So we really are blessed. And lastly, one other very happy news is LeGrand Cooper from First Presbyterian Church let me know, and this is official now, that they have purchased the former SCANA building, not the big one on Main Street, that one has 800 students in it, but their smaller building on Marion Street, and it is going to be the new College of Youth Services, going to serve youth, and also the Erskine Seminary will be in that building. So we are just very excited about that, and just continue to be thankful for all the good that First Pres does for our community. That's all I really have today, but I just want everybody to be thankful for this beautiful day, and I really look forward to a great year. So thank you and enjoy.
Thank you, Matt. I'll call forward Jonathan Milling. Jonathan is helping out this year. He's the foundation chair, the Rotary Foundation chair, and today he'll recognize several Paul Harris Fellow recipients.
Thank you, President Mark. Named after the Rotary's founder, Paul Harris, the Paul Harris Society recognizes Rotary members and friends of the Rotary Foundation who contribute $1,000 or more each year to the annual fund, Polio Plus, or other approved global grants. The purpose of the Paul Harris Society is to honor and to thank individuals for their generosity and their annual support of the foundation. Today we recognize 4 members, and I would ask that they each come forward at this time. Gary Snyder, Leroy Gibson, Robin Gorman, and Ann Walker. The first honoree I'd like to recognize is Gary Snyder. Gary is receiving his first Paul Harris Fellow pin. He has been a member of the club for 10 years. He is the president of Carolina Benefits Group, which is an employee benefits brokerage firm here in town. His wife is Sullen Snyder, and they have 3 adult children, Austin, Alex, and Anna. He also was the founder of Coats for Kindness, a not-for-profit organization providing new warm winter coats to school children ages kindergarten through 12th grade. Let's thank Gary, please. The next honoree is Leroy Gibson. Leroy is receiving his Paul Harris Fellow +3, which has 3 sapphires on the pin, recognizing at least $4,000 in cumulative contribution to the society. He has been a member of the club for 11 years. His wife, Mary Ann, and he have been married for 53 years. They have 3 daughters, Becky Carter, Brenda Gibson, and Beth Addison, 7 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren. He's retired twice, most recently from Grease Monkey, but he's also taught 25 years and also served as a football, basketball, and track coach in Indiana. Let's all join me in thanking Leroy. Robin Gorman is the next honoree. She receives her Paul Harris Fellow +6, which has 1 ruby on it, recognizing $7,000 in contributions. She's been a member of the club for over 25 years. She serves as the Regional Development Officer for Converse College and is also the owner of Langston Gorman and Associates here in town. Her husband, Mike, is also a member and a Paul Harris Fellow, as are her son, Langston, and her daughter-in-law, Casey. Let's join me in thanking Robin. These are the Paul Harris Fellows. Once you have received or achieved the level of $10,000 or more in cumulative contribution to the society, you are designated as a major donor. The next honoree, Ann Walker, has not only received 1 major donor status, but she is her 2nd major donor, recognizing $25,000 or more to the Paul Harris Society. She serves as the Executive Director of the Austin Wilkes Society, which is a statewide nonprofit agency working in criminal justice, homelessness, veterans, and mental health issues. She's been a member of the club for 28 years and she has served as the President of the Midlands United Way Executive Directors Association, a past member of the Board of Directors for the Midlands United Way. She is a past President for Columbia Rotary Club and a past District Governor for the 2008-2009 Rotary year. She is married to David Evans, and they have a grown daughter, Sabrina Melissa. Thank you to Ann for all your support.
Thank you, Jonathan, and congratulations to all of you for being supporters of the Rotary Foundation. We thank you very much for your generosity and constant support. I'll call forward now Steve Bryant, who has an update for us, mid-year update on the CART Fund.
For the benefit of our newer members, I'd like to speak briefly about the importance of the CART Fund. The purpose of the CART Fund is to provide seed money for cutting-edge, high-impact research projects in hope of finding a cure for Alzheimer's disease. The goal of the fund is to encourage exploratory and developmental Alzheimer's research projects within the United States. The CART Fund was started by Rotarian Roger Ackerman. Roger encountered Alzheimer's disease firsthand during his mother-in-law's 18-year journey with the disease. Her suffering inspired Roger to explore ways to accelerate a cure for Alzheimer's. In 1995, Roger convinced his fellow members of the Sumter, South Carolina Rotary Club to empty their pockets of spare change at weekly meetings to fund innovative Alzheimer's research. With Roger's effort, The outpouring of donations in Sumter soon spread throughout the district and then to neighboring Rotary districts. From the beginning, CART has been a novel fundraising program. Each week, we are encouraged to voluntarily empty our pockets and purses of change, or whatever amount we choose. While the name CART stands for Coins for Alzheimer's Research Trust, we also welcome contributions of currency, checks, and even credit cards. As of May 2015, 29 grants have been awarded, totaling $5,200,000. CART Fund bylaws require that 100% of all donated funds must go to Alzheimer's research, and all contributions are tax deductible. CART is currently supported by Rotarians in 14 Rotary districts within North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Virginia, and Florida. Individual Rotary clubs across North America have chosen to support the CART Fund as a one-time project as well as an ongoing project. The effect of donated change can be illustrated by considering that in the Rotary districts of the Carolinas and Georgia, there are approximately 35,000 Rotarians. Assuming 85% attendance, approximately 45 meetings a year, and an average donation of just $1, we can raise well over $1 million for research annually. On a personal note, my mother died in 2006 after a 12-year battle with this disease. It is also noteworthy that Pat Bowlen, the owner of the Denver Broncos, is suffering from Alzheimer's and is not expected to make the trip to watch his team play in the Super Bowl this coming Sunday. I would like to ask you to be very intentional about donating at least $1 to that blue bucket on your table each and every week that you attend Rotary, so that one day, we will find a cure for this disease. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks for sharing. That's good information. And I'd ask everyone to go ahead and pass the bucket around every table. Someone from the table will grab it and pass it around. Be an opportunity here for you to put some money in it. And thank you for all the information again, Steve. All right, we'll move to the speaker, the program we have today. And to introduce Lieutenant Governor McMaster, Rusty DePass will come to the microphone.
Thank you very much, Mark. It's a pleasure to introduce Henry McMaster. Henry and I have been friends for almost 40 years, at least until last Wednesday when he endorsed Donald Trump. Ruined a perfectly good friendship. No, seriously, I have friends who are for wackier candidates than Trump. So what can I say? Everybody has a right to be wrong. Henry was born in Columbia. He's a Columbia native. And in fact, when he ran for governor in 2010, I said, Henry, are you aware that the last governor elected from Richmond County was Hugh Thompson in 1884? I didn't mean that to be prophetic in any way. Henry was the first U.S. attorney appointed by Ronald Reagan in 1981 and served a number of years in that position. Later ran for the U.S. Senate. He was chairman of the South Carolina Republican Party for 7 or 9 years. 9 years. And did an outstanding job in that position. And he went from running to helping others run. And it was during that period of time that the Republican Party in South Carolina really took off. I realize that may mean more to me than it does to many of you, but hopefully you'll aspire to a better life later. Henry was elected Lieutenant Governor, was elected Attorney General in 2002 and did a tremendous, very, very commendable job in that position in the fields of border control, namely trying to keep our North Carolina neighbors from taking our water, criminal domestic violence, internet crimes, internet pornography, and so forth. And got a great deal of good, solid credit and promotion in doing that. Unfortunately, when he ran for governor in 2010, he was not elected, but Henry is one of those guys that says never say die, and so he came back and ran in 2014 for lieutenant governor, and that is the position that he currently holds. And I want to say one more thing about Henry McMaster before I turn this over to him. And that is, and here again, this may mean more to me than it does to many of you, but South Carolina is known today as a Republican state, for good or for ill. But the people who serve in offices in this state with the Republican label stand on the shoulders of people like Henry McMaster, and I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. Henry, it's a pleasure to have you speak to us on how great we are.
And that's exactly what I want to talk to you about, is how great we are. And I brought some facts and figures about roads and ethics and taxes and all that. I'll get to if we have time. Pretty interesting stuff what's going on up at the State House. But this is the greatest place in the whole world to live. Some of y'all have been around longer and more than I have been. But if you start writing it down on paper and start analyzing what the assets are that we have as a state, I think you'll find out, like I have, is that there's not another state that has all the things that we have. And all the things that we have are all that we need to have great economic prosperity and success. And with economic prosperity comes tax money, comes people that are happy and healthy, comes good hospitals, comes good roads, comes good education, comes everything. A lot of the problems that Rusty was talking about with domestic violence and all those things that we've been fighting all these years, a lot of those things go away when you have a thriving, growing economy. And so that's what I see as the big challenge that we have. We have an opportunity right now to take a giant step forward, to be ahead of our neighbors, and to ensure that for generations to come that this is the best place on earth to live, work, and raise a family. So I want to try to explain and communicate a few of these points to you to see if you see it the way I do. But here's something funny. You probably heard the story about the young couple that did not communicate. They didn't talk much about anything. They met each other as love at first sight. They didn't discuss it. They just, I love you, baby, so they just got married. And then they were moved into the little house, and mom-in-law moved in with them. And they, like I say, they didn't talk much. They were just happy and they in love and didn't talk. But finally, after about 3 or 4 months, the young groom says to his blushing young bride, says, baby, don't you think it's about time we find your mama someplace else to live? She said, my mama, I thought she's your mama. So you got to communicate. And there's another big word that I think is the secret, will be the secret of our great success, which is coming. We are on the way, and that is the word cooperate and collaborate. Because we do that in South Carolina, and with the assets that we have, if we communicate and we cooperate and we collaborate, there's not another place in the country that can keep up with us. And right now, things are starting to bubble back up. Right now, the economy is starting to come back, struggling along at 2% growth or something like that. It's not nearly enough. But we have the assets to get in the front of this wave and ride this thing for many, many years and be ahead. And anybody who's been at the beach and has tried to ride a wave in on the shore knows what the difference is between catching one just right and being a little too fast or a little too slow. You miss it, there it goes, you just flop it in the water and the wave goes all the way up and your buddies have made it all the way to shore and you're out there waiting on the next wave. We got to be sure, I think, that we use our heads and see to it that that does not happen to us now. And again, here are the assets. See, follow along with me. You probably can think of some that I haven't thought of. Number one, we have 3 major research universities that are all terrific. But what do they do that others don't do? They cooperate with each other. We compete in athletics, and we've been very good in athletics with national baseball team, national champ, baseball and football, and all. And I think the horse, what do you call that? There you go, equestrian, with the equestrian team is #1 in the country. And I think the lacrosse team is #1 in the country. We got all kinds of #1 things going on. Charleston, South Carolina, for several years has been not only the #1 tourist destination in the United States, but the #1 tourist destination in the world. Now that's something to be happy about. We have all those things, and we're pursuing excellence all over the place. If y'all read the paper, we have a ballerina from Columbia that's in New York City. She's the top ballerina in the New York City Ballet, Lee Lumpkin. Her name is Sarah Mearns, I think.
Sarah Burns.
Mearns. She is the top ballerina in New York City. Went to Calvert Brody Ballet School right here in Columbia, and I don't know what. We have people like that all over the place. The fellow Gary Mullis, who graduated from Dreher High School, he got a Nobel Prize for something in genetics. I don't remember what it was. The man up in Greenville went to Furman, forgotten his name, Thomas something. Anyway, he was off the scale. He's the guy that invented the laser. We got plenty of people, smart people, and they're all pursuing excellence, and we need to encourage that in every single thing. And here you go. This is the one that got me. Anybody been to Darlington Racetrack and watched those fellows over there? Now, I'll tell you, you might not think that is a sophisticated place, but I promise you it is. There's more science and engineering going on over there, going around that racetrack than you usually see in a lifetime. They had old bald-headed guys working the computers in these big sheds. They had cameras all over the vehicles and measuring vibration, speed, heat, cool, all that stuff. And it's something to see. I asked the fellow, I said, what's the horsepower on those things? They go by so loud you can hardly. By the way, it ain't stock cars anymore. They call them that, but there's very little is stock on them. They have about 690 horsepower. And I said, boy, that's about pushing it to the limit. He said, no, if we took the governors off, they'd go up to about 960 horsepower. That's 400 miles. I think the closest race was in 2003. Just to give you an idea how it's fine-tuned, they are looking for every little advantage. It's the ultimate free exercise experiment. Cale Yarborough a few years ago figured out a way to save about 0.2 of a second, and that is when they put the new tires on the vehicle, they take the old ones off, they put the new ones on. He glued the lug nuts onto the tire, so when they put the tire up there, they didn't have to look for them. They were already lightly glued there. All they had to do was put them on, that is, tighten them up. And in the pit, you know how long they stay in the pit to gas them up and to put the 4 new tires on them? 9 seconds. Now that's something. That's the pursuit of excellence. Let me see if they find this thing. Okay, here you go. Darlington Raceway, 2003. The 2003 Carolina Dodge Dealers Darlington Raceway, March 26. Ricky Craven in a Pontiac beat Kurt Busch in a Ford. There were 293 laps. As you know, they have caution flags, so sometimes it takes longer than other times. But you got to go 400 miles. It's 400.238 miles. The average speed was 126.214 miles an hour. And that counts caution flags and all that as well, because those things will go close to 200 miles an hour. Attendance at 55,000. The margin of victory, talk about a photo finish, the margin of victory was 0.002 seconds. That's 2/1000ths of a second. 2/1000ths of a second after a 400-mile race. Whew. That's what I'm talking about, excellence. And the engineering there is what we see going on up at ICAR. These 3 major research universities that we have are leading us into the knowledge economy. And that's where all of the action is going to be. We will not be able to compete with the cheap labor in these other countries. They got way more people than we do. They got people that their economies are not like ours. We can forget about putting things together faster or cheaper than they can in these other places, but we can outthink them. We can outsmart them. We got colleges, the best colleges, universities in the whole world. People come here from all over the place. We need to see about keeping some of those people here instead of letting them go on to try to keep them here, keep all of our people here, keep them going to those schools. But those 3 research universities are partnering with all sorts of private partners in business, and they are leading the way in innovation in the United States. Did you know that down on the corner of Blossom and Assembly Street, USC is putting up a new building there, and that is going to be the National Data Analytics headquarters for IBM, right there on that corner. Just down the street, BMW gave $5 million to the aeronautical engineering research facility that they're going to have there. It'll be a partnership between between Boeing and the University of South Carolina, where the students at the university as well as professors will be able to go in and not only study in books and diagrams how these planes work, but it'll be the only one in the country where they're going to have actual pieces of planes in there for them to work on. We're going off the scale and we don't hear enough about it. So that's one, research universities. And ladies and gentlemen, those things don't just spring up like mushrooms. It takes a long time to build something that's world class like that. Now, speaking of the port, we can't build that. We can make it better. But the good Lord put that here for us. And here we are. We have a natural harbor. In about 20 years, the Port of Charleston and the Port of New York, New Jersey are going to be the top ports on the Atlantic coast. Why is that? That's because these big ships that will be coming through the Panama Canal, which is made wider and deeper, it's a multi-billion-dollar project, where they will be going. They need to go to harbors where they can get in and get out any time of day. In Charleston right now, the mean high tide, I think, is 45 feet. Can't remember exactly, but it's enough at high tide. I said that's mean low tide. It's enough at high tide where those ships today, if they were to come here, they could get in and out at high tide, which happens twice a day. But we're going to dig down, and we will go to either 50 feet or 52 feet. And that means they'll be able to come here around the clock. And that is a great, great thing. The ships are getting bigger and deeper, and it's going to revolutionize and change everything in international commerce, and we are right there at the top of it. And in addition, years ago, our state leaders bought property up in Greer, South Carolina. We call it now, that's where BMW is, of course, but also we're calling it an inland port. Somebody asked Jim Newsom, I don't remember what river goes up there. There's no river goes up there. We got lots of rivers, but none of them go to Greer and come down, go up to the port. But what that is the ships will come in with those containers on them, and they'll take them off and put them on a truck and send them up I-26. And from I-26, they go on up to Greer, where they take them off on the train. Norfolk Southern has a line there now, it has a spur there now, we have a facility there now. That means that the truckers coming from all over can come to Greer, unload, and pick up a load and leave a load and drive on I-85, which is one of the most heavily traveled roads in the country, and they don't have to take hours to go down to Charleston and turn around and come back. It also takes all those trucks off the road. Same things with the ships coming in. You can pick your stuff up either in Charleston or you can pick it up in Greer. A wonderful thing. Years in the planning. It sat idle for a number of years, but just a few years ago, the Ports Authority, which by the way spends no tax money, it is a fantastic operation, worldwide in scope. The men and women there travel all over the world looking for customers and selling the port. But they decided it's time to revive this idea of an inland port, and I don't have the details on all the inland ports in the country. They're not many, I think there's 5 or 6, and I think ours is the best laid out of them all. So there's another economic advantage for people coming to South Carolina and being in South Carolina. What's another? We have the finest technical college system in the United States. Hands down, there's no argument about it. Everybody has known it for years, and it's getting better and better. The industries, businesses, people looking to come to South Carolina, first thing they'll do is they talk to the people at the technical college. I was at an expansion of a plant in York called Silotech that makes things, that makes diaphragms and stoppers and face masks and all using silicone, soft silicone. And they were expanding. They had started up in London, Ontario. They built their big manufacturing plant someplace in India. They built their second manufacturing plant in York, South Carolina. And they were expanding in York, South Carolina. And I was up there representing the state. And I talked to the man from London, Ontario. Very nice gentleman. He said that they did their best to get Silotech to expand in London, Ontario. He said, but we cannot compete with South Carolina. And I found out from the people at Silotech that they sent their people up to London, Ontario to look at what was going on up there. From the technical college in York, they went up to London, Ontario to study the needs of that industry and came back and designed a curriculum specifically for them. That's why other people are coming to South Carolina. Now this, as y'all know, the technical college system started years ago. Fritz Hollins was governor, and y'all remember Stan Smith, who died not long ago. He was the one that was put in charge by Governor Hollins to figure out what we're going to do with our technical education system. Let's have one. And I have learned that we made a very important decision back then, and that was to have a technical college system that is a technical college system. And that is, when you go to the technical college, the idea and goal is to have you leave ready to go to work in one of these industries, ready to be hired. It is not a preparation for a 4-year school. It is not a preparation for a degree in English or philosophy or history or any of those marvelous things. It is to get you ready to go into the workforce. Most of the other states that made the decision to have a technical college system made the wrong decision. They know it now, but it's been in place for years. It's hard to turn a train like that around. But we made the right decision in the beginning, and it's paying off. That's an advantage we have. Water. We got lots of water. And so far, we've been keeping it clean. Y'all remember John McCain used to joke about, he said in Arizona, the trees hunt the dogs out there because there's so little water. Has anybody seen pictures of Lake Mead? Have y'all seen those? It's a huge reservoir, and it had about 30 or 40% of the water it's supposed to have in it. I mean, they got some problems out there in California, and in a lot of places. We don't have those problems here. We got lots of water. In fact, we had a little bit too much water in October. But we got good, clean water, and by the way, thinking of firsts and onlys and bests, the Edistone River is the longest black water undammed river in North America. They're beautiful. The Edistone River and the Black River are both dark in color. Fantastic. We got rivers, they're all kind of different colors. And in the flood time, of course, they're nice browns all over the color. But we do have plenty of water, and our environmental assets are beyond compare with the swamps. Some of them we've nationalized with the national parks, national monuments. We have a great environmental heritage that we have to be very careful about, because, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of people who come here for the quality of life, and a big part of the quality of life is what we have in the natural environment. So we have to be very careful. I was at a meeting a few years ago with Christy Todd Whitman. Y'all may remember she was the governor of New Jersey, and then for a number of years was the head of the Environmental Protection Agency. We were looking out the window, looking south up there at the Capital City Club, and it's just beautiful, all the green and everything, and the buildings going up, and it just looked like a picture. It's perfect. I said, isn't this wonderful? Look at the great things we have here in South Carolina. She says, yes, you do. She says, y'all have it all in South Carolina. I hope you don't mess it up. So we got to be real careful because it's very tempting to rush into something that'll have negative consequences later on. And once those things are gone, you can't bring them back. Another advantage we have, we got plenty of power. Plenty of power. Have 7 nuclear reactors, 2 more on the way. They don't go down. They keep plenty of power out there. Some other states run out of power. They have blackouts. We're not going to have that problem. And it is an enormous industrial advantage as well. Speaking to a man that Kenny Jackson over at Scanner not long ago, a couple of years ago, he said his phone's ringing off the hook. Never seen anything like it with these businesses around the country. Calling up, wanting to know, is there plenty of power? Do you have any power problems? What is the price of your power? So that's another advantage that we have. Our history is phenomenal. And I guess the main thing is our people. Now, however we got here, with the kind of people, with the attitudes they have, with the strength they have, because y'all, we've been through it all. We've been through wars, we've been through hurricanes, we've been through slavery, we've been through fires, we've been through depression, we've been through the destruction of the oil industry after the Civil War, or war between the states for those unreconstructed among us. We've been through all of that. At the time of the Revolutionary War, you know where the richest colony of the colonies was? South Carolina. At the time of the Civil War, broken out in 1861, South Carolina was the second richest place in the whole country. Of course, the country wasn't as big then as it is now. It's gotten a lot bigger. But we've got a great history. People come here to learn about it, and we ourselves keep on learning about it. But that has made our people, I think, different. I think our people have a different attitude. One place you saw the difference of that attitude was back in June with the massacre down there in the Mother Emanuel Church, when those families of the slain people were to bond here the next day. Y'all remember that? And they were asking forgiveness for those people. Y'all, you just don't see that. I had people tell me they didn't know what it meant to be a Christian until they saw those people come out at that bond hearing. We didn't have riots. We didn't have all that. We had something completely different. Our people are different. I don't know quite how to explain it. I guess Walter Edgar could, or someone that had studied the history. But we're different. And as General Livingston will tell you, we're always number one. Our National Guard is always number one in readiness in the country. That means we are ready to fight if we have to. We are different, strong, smart people, and with these assets that I've mentioned, there's no stopping us. So I say if we make the right decisions, if we don't tax ourselves into oblivion, if we don't regulate our businesses so much that they can't thrive, if we educate the children, and take them all the way up, those as far as they want to go, pursuing excellence, pursuing their dreams in this knowledge economy that's right upon us now. We are right on the edge of going right straight to the top, and there's not another state that can compete with us. That's what I see. That's what I believe. Now, some of you have asked me about what's going on up at the State House with taxes and roads and education and ethics. And by the way, those are Governor Haley's priorities. They are the right priorities, and we're making progress, but it's going to be slow. So I would encourage anyone who has an interest, who wants to take part and talk to the people up there and try to enlighten those that are in positions to make decisions, please do so, because everybody likes to hear from somebody. But the latest discussions, and I emphasize these are only discussions, some of this is not even in bills yet, are to lower the income taxes from 7% to 6.8%. In that bracket, and also expand those two brackets, and the other one is 3% will go down to 2.8%. The business personal property tax down from 10.5 to 9.5, and the manufacturing personal property tax, which is the highest in the United States at 10.5, is being discussed to go down to 8.5. So those are discussions on lowering taxes. You remember the governor said that she'll do it. She'll veto anything unless it lowers taxes, she'll allow the gas tax to go up. If the income taxes or these taxes go down, and the highway department is restructured in a way to where the money is not wasted and there's accountability. Those are the three parts of what she says she's looking for. So, Senate discussions, and I emphasize discussions, there are a number of bills floating around, and the discussions in the House and the Senate, but the discussions now seem to be centered on raising the gas tax from the current 16 cents to 28 cents over 3 years. And I had some numbers here, I didn't bring them with me, about where that would put us. But we're right now among the lowest, I think third from lowest in the country on the gas tax. But all of them may be too high in some people's eyes. Just being close to the bottom is not necessarily an argument for raising them up. And of course, the arguments are made that there are a lot of plumbers, there are a lot of carpenters, there are a lot of people who travel a lot for a living who are not at the top income levels. It'll be hit real hard by these taxes if they go up. And of course, you hear that there are a lot of folks out there, I can't remember what percent, if they had to write a $500 check right now for something that's out of their budget expectations, they couldn't do it. So we've got to always keep those folks in mind. But that's how those would raise up. And the driver's license fee would go up a little bit, and that would raise a little bit of money. By the way, the gas tax, if it went up from 16 to 28%, and cents on a gallon was phased in the third year, that raised $442.6 million is estimated. Driver's license fee in the third year would raise $15.4 million. The sales tax cap on vehicles is now $300. A group has proposed that go to $600. In the third year, that raised $168.8 million. Motor vehicle registration would go up by $16. I'm not sure what it is now. Third year, that would raise $25.4 million. So those are but again, those are discussions only, because there are people in the Senate, a number of senators who say unless there's a portion of this thing that reforms the highway department where it's accountable, then they're not going to let anything pass. And you got others saying if taxes are not raised, they're not going to let anything pass. And that's what we're dealing with. As I say, there are a number of proposals in Senate transportation. As y'all know now, the members of the Highway Commission are elected by the legislative delegations in the 7 congressional districts. And then they go up, the governor appoints the Secretary of Transportation, subject to the advice and consent by the Senate. Christy Hall just got confirmed last week. But the argument is that with those people being elected by those legislators from those 7 districts, there's no real accountability. Nobody can make somebody do something, or if somebody messes up, you don't know exactly who did it. So there's the current bill on the floor that's receiving the most attention is one that would create 10 districts that would run along the lines of the Council on Government 10 districts in the state, and each one would submit 3 names. The governor would pick one, would submit that one, appoint that one, nominate that one. They'd be screened and then voted on in the House and the Senate. Like I say, there's a lot of disagreement on all of those things. On ethics, the 2 proposals that it's about boiled down to are the same ones that you've heard about for weeks, or actually for the last couple of years. And that is to have an independent group, an ethics commission, that will receive complaints and discipline everybody. Right now, they discipline everybody in public offices except those who are members of the legislature. And a lot of the legislators and some of the scholars as well say that because our Constitution provides that the committee of the House and committee of the Senate shall be the one to, they don't use the word discipline, but to judge the conduct of its own members, that to have somebody else do that would be unconstitutional. I don't agree with that. I think that having an ethics commission that is independent, that is appointed, my one proposal is by the governor. There have been others that have some by the House, some by the Senate, some by the governor. But have them not only do the investigation with an enhanced staff, but also to render the decision, that is the judgment on what the penalty is for failing to follow those ethics rules. And of course, if it's something criminal, that could go either to any solicitor or the Attorney General. But I'm not talking about criminal things. But that's one of the things. The other is the disclosure of income. Under the rules now, anyone in those offices who gets money directly from any state entity must disclose the entity and the amount. And anyone who receives money from a business that has or any entity that has a lobbyist at the State House also has to make disclosures. But anything else is not disclosed. That's probably a harder one to have everyone disclose not the amount of their income, except that they get from the different government agencies, but also to disclose where they get the income from, but not the amount, is going to be a tough one. I think tougher than having some sort of an independent group that will judge the yes or no on the ethical violations. So I think that's what I promised that I was going to tell you a minute ago. I forgot to tell you a couple of things. Y'all will love this. Speaking about this state again and how we're going right straight to the top, we're about to run out of time, so I'll quit. Who wants to guess how often when Volvo gets cranked up, here we got these international businesses that could go anywhere in the whole world, and they come to South Carolina, one after another. Then it makes you wonder, what do they see that sometimes we can't see ourselves? And not only are they coming, but they are fantastic. Volvo, their first expansion in the whole world is coming to the United States, coming to South Carolina. They intend to produce a new Volvo vehicle every 5.3 minutes. Do you know how long it takes to get a new BMW out of Greer, South Carolina? You're not going to believe this. 67 seconds, a brand new one rolls off of that floor. And you think those guys at Darlington are fast. Honda in Timmonsville, there's a Honda plant. They're producing ATV vehicles, and they roll a new one off every 51 seconds. I mean, we're high tech, we are innovative, the knowledge economy is here, and as long as we educate the children, we'll be able to stay ahead of it. We don't have much time left. We're on the edge of it with what we have. But again, the assets that we have are tremendous, and they're unique. The combination is unique. And another advantage that we have is, as I said, is our people. But y'all, have you noticed how everybody knows everybody? Have you noticed that? There have been studies done about the degrees of separation, where if you pick some man or woman at random someplace, if you don't know them, how many people would you have to go through to get to know them? And this, in most places, is several here. If you don't know them yourself or related to them, it probably just takes about one more person. As Lindsey Graham famously said, he said, if we're married in South Carolina and divorced in Georgia, are we still cousins? So I say be optimistic. We've got it all. We're going right straight to the top. All we have to do is use our heads and don't mess up. So do plenty of thinking, and remember, public office is an idea hunt. Looking for the next better idea. So if anybody's got one, let me know. We got a couple of minutes. I'll be glad to answer questions if we have time. Thank you.
One more question about the inland port. What about the railroad that might be built from Charleston up there to get the traffic off of I-26?
That railroad's already there. That's the Norfolk Southern. It's been there. They built a spur to go into the plant, and that plant was built. By the way, the Ports Authority does a good job. The facility up there and the railroad building its ramp and going into the place. All that was done not only on time, but before the time was up, and just a little bit under budget. But that's there now. The rail line has been there. In fact, most of that part of that rail line is the old best friend of South Carolina, the Southern, I can't remember the name of the railway, Southern Railway, the first passenger line, first railroad line in the United States, right here in South Carolina. Went from Charleston to Hamburg. And you know the reason? Because the traffic, the riverboats were going down, the river traffic was going down the Savannah River to the port of Savannah, and the people in Charleston wanted to come in there, so they built a rail line going up to Hamburg, which is right on the edge of the Savannah River. So we've been using our heads for a long time.
Time for one more.
Yes, sir.
I believe the CEO of Michelin said last year they weren't going to build any more plants here because of our infrastructure. And that wasn't enough to get the legislature to move. If they give us money this year, it'll be 5 years before anything started, right?
It'll take some time. That's right. Unfortunately, Christy Hall, the superintendent of, Secretary of Transportation, estimated it would take to do the minimum would be $400 million a year. To do a little bit more would be 800 or 600. To get to a real comfortable feeling would take about 800 million more. We spent the budget now something like 1.2 billion for the highway department. But to really have us up to 100%, it would take that amount again, about 1.2.
So you're optimistic about infrastructure this year?
Well, it's not, yes. I'm optimistic about the state in general, this infrastructure thing and education. Those are two things we got to hammer down on. And Rita Allison's committee has come up with a great blueprint for getting teachers to stay, getting good ones to come to stay, and to go into the rural areas where they really need it, and another plan for assisting the school districts in building the buildings that they need there that don't have the tax base for it. Now, we got a lot to do, but I'd rather be where we are than where everybody else is, because there's still more coming. And by the way, Jim Barker, former president of Clemson University, he said that he is tired of hearing people say South Carolina is just a small, poor state and we just can't do anything. He said he never wants to hear that again because it's not true. Harris Pastides talks about no limits. Well, those men have been to the top and they can see this maze that we're working in down here to try to get things done. And that's the picture that I want to leave with you. Despite problems we have, and that's a big one, we've got more than the other states, and we'll be able to outrun them.
Thank you very much. All right, in the interest of time, let's stand, and we'll close by singing.